Black Belt challenges humble janitor to spar. What happened next will change everything forever. Jake stood in the empty gym, mop in hand, surveying the worn wooden floor where echoes of laughter and cheers used to ring out. Before life had whisked him away to this janitorial job at a struggling urban high school in Detroit, he had been the pride of the community, a martial arts champion with dreams of greatness dancing in his mind. Now, he cleaned up after kids who barely noticed him. The heavy sweep of the broom felt like a weight not just on his shoulders, but right in his chest. Every stroke reminded him of the dreams he'd sacrificed for his wife and spirited 8-year-old daughter, Lily. The gym door creaked open, and a group of students rushed in, excited for basketball practice. Among them, Alex, a confident black belt known for his flashy moves, strutted in like he owned the place. As he admired himself in the floor-to-ceiling mirrors, he caught a glimpse of Jake mopping, his feet gliding with an unexpected rhythm. Alex smirked. "Hey, janitor, I challenge you to a sparring match," he called out, laughing. The room fell silent, students' heads turned, whispers rippling through the crowd. Jake's insides twisted, his heart racing as embarrassment washed over him. He wanted to turn and walk away, but something deeper held him still. With each passing moment, the pressure mounted. He could feel the stares like arrows piercing his pride. To the students, he was a has-been, a faded ghost of what once was. But to Lily, her father was invincible. He couldn't show her fear. Couldn't he let her see him shrink away from a challenge? The emotional weight of it all was suffocating. Yet on the way home that day, just before dinner, he found a drawing on the kitchen table, a crude, innocent crayon sketch of him as a superhero wielding a broom like a sword. Lily had written, "Go Dad," with a little heart beside it. In that moment, the flicker of the fighter he thought was extinguished ignited within him. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to this system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the day of the showdown drew near, excitement stirred through the student body. The announcement blared over the school intercom, and whispers turned to cheers. Jake felt trapped in that gym, a pantomime of his former self. The assembly buzzed with anxious energy, a temperature boiling with anticipation. Students laid bets with candied bars and lunches on the line. Jake's heart raced. Anxiety clawed at him. But this wasn't just about sparring anymore. It was about facing his fears, reclaiming dignity in front of students, faculty, and, most importantly, Lily.as. The gym filled up with kids and teachers. The vibrant atmosphere buzzed with anticipation. Jake took a deep breath and squared his shoulders. The bell chimed, signaling the start of the match. The spotlight now glared bright upon him. The room hushed, the energy crackling, and just like that, Jake was no longer just a janitor. The question lingered in the air. Could he rise from the sidelines, rekindling the fighter inside? Or would he falter under the weight of self-doubt? The answer seemed tantalizingly just out of reach. Jake stepped onto the mat, his heart pounding like a drum. The gym echoed with the excited chatter of students, their eyes fixated on him. He felt the heat of their stares, and the pressure of expectations weighing him down. This wasn't just a match. It was a chance to reclaim who he once was, even if it had been years since he last stepped into a ring. Alex circled him, a confident grin etched on his face. The young black belt was sleek and agile, already drawing the crowd as admiration with practiced ease. Ready to get embarrassed? He taunted, his voice dripping with arrogance. Jake swallowed hard, biting back a retort. He couldn't let Alex's games get to him. He needed to focus. Every harsh word echoed in his mind, carrying the weight of his insecurities. Yet, he wasn't just a janitor today. He was a father ready to fight for his daughter's honor. The thought of Lily cheering him on from the bleachers pushed him forward, giving him strength. The bell rang, and just like that, they were off. Jake instinctively took a fighting stance, legs spread apart, balancing himself. Alex lunged forward, throwing a sharp kick aimed at Jake's midsection. It was fast, but Jake anticipated the move, pivoting slightly to sidestep. The quick dodge fueled his confidence. It reminded him of years past, when he would spar with seasoned opponents instead of kids whose biggest worry was making the basketball team. As Alex continued his flurry of punches and high-energy kicks, Jake focused on staying in the moment. Each block and counter strike brought fleeting flashes of joy, reminiscent of his glory days. But with each connection and every near miss, anxiety crept back in. What if he fell? What if he humiliated himself in front of everyone, including Lily? But his daughter's drawing flickered in his mind, like a neon light in darkness. Fighting had always been about more than just skill. It was about heart and spirit. He channeled that energy. As Alex lunged toward him again, Jake saw the millisecond opening he needed. He sidestepped, guiding Alex's momentum off balance, and struck back with a measured jab. It landed perfectly on Alex's shoulder, surprising the younger fighter. Cheers erupted from the students, a swell of admiration rolling over Jake like a warm wave at the beach. For the first time, he could see their faces shifting from mockery to respect. Could it be? Was he beginning to change the narrative? Before he could let that thought take root, Alex retaliated, spinning in a graceful arc that ended with a powerful kick aimed at Jake's head. It was unexpected, and Jake barely managed to duck in time. Sanity screamed for him to quit while he was ahead, but a spark inside refused to accept that. Jake returned to his stance, keeping his eyes glued to Alex, their breaths heavy, their respect for one another growing in that very moment. The crowd's energy was palpable. "Come on, Dad!" He heard Lily shout, her small fists clenched in excitement. A wave of determination filled him. This wasn't just a match. It was the reclamation of who he was. Jake lunged forward, feeling invincible. Every blow was propelled by his love for Lily, ignited with fierce conviction fueled by years of yearning for purpose. As the fight continued, he began to realize that the real battle was against Alex that lay within. In that pivotal breath, everything shifted. Jake's confidence began to swell, but the question loomed larger than ever. Would this spark be enough to light the flame of new beginnings? Or was it just a flicker in the dark? The answer waited just beyond their next exchange. Jake narrowed his focus, the adrenaline coursing through him like fire. He could feel the crowd's energy, a buzzing current that challenged him to rise higher. Alex had begun to underestimate him, and that was his chance. The younger fighter, emboldened by his impressive dueling techniques, launched into a series of spinning kicks. Jake shifted back, calculating the distance, measuring each movement with newfound precision. He couldn't let Alex's arrogance determine his fate. Each lunge from Alex pushed Jake closer to finding his rhythm. Out of nowhere, Alex charged, unleashing a flurry of punches. Jake's instincts kicked in. He blocked the first two blows, then countered with a quick jab that landed right on Alex's cheek. The shock on Alex's face was priceless, but Jake couldn't dwell on that victory. The thrill from the crowd filled his chest with hope. "You got nothing," Alex spat, wiping the sweat from his brow. But Jake saw the tremor in his arms. The tables had turned, even if just a little. Lily's voice blended with the roaring crowd. "Go, Dad!" And for the first time, it felt like her belief in him carried a weight all its own. He knew he had to push on. Each punch he threw was for her, each block an affirmation that he was more than just a job title. He was a fighter, a dad. And as the match continued, Jake felt memories flicker like an old film reel. Images of his training days flashed before him, his coach cheering him on, the warmth of camaraderie with friends, and the rush of a hard-won victory. He resolved not to let those memories fade away in the shadow of the janitor he had become. "Come on!" he growled at himself, determination surging. He was ready to reclaim not just his past but his future. Jake feigned left, then dashed to the right, landing a clean strike to Alex's side. The younger fighter stumbled, and the gasp from the crowd hung in the air like a breath held too long. Alex's smile faded, replaced by the realization that he was up against someone who would not back down. But as the seconds ticked by, Jake could feel his endurance starting to wane. The years of neglecting his own health weighed on him. He couldn't let it show. Not now. Not in front of Lily. Suddenly, Alex lashed out with a kick that grazed Jake's shoulder and sent him reeling backward. Pain shot through him, but he pushed it aside. Adrenaline masked the bruises forming on his body. Sweat pooled underneath his collar, but the urge to fight consumed him. He rolled his shoulders back and locked eyes with Alex, both men panting but defiant. "You're tougher than I thought," Alex admitted, the veneer of confidence cracking just a bit. Jake saw the flicker of respect in his eyes, and it ignited something within him. Holding steady, Jake faced his opponent head-on. This was more than a fight. It was a testament to who he was. He shouted, "Let us finish this." With every ounce of strength, he lunged forward, ready to end not just this match, but to signal a new beginning in his life. The crowd erupted, their cheers merging into a rhythmic roar as the two men collided once more. Just then, Jake's heart raced faster than ever, feeling like everything hinged on this final exchange. Would he finally defeat Alex? Or was he standing precariously on the edge of failure? That uncertainty lingered in the air, thick enough to cut with a knife as punches flew. In that breathless moment, Jake realized the greatest fight wasn't just with Alex. It was the fight to redefine himself. What victory awaited him on the other side? Jake surged forward, determined to seize this moment. Alex was quick, but Jake had grown relentless. Every punch was infused with years of pent-up frustration and yearning. He was no longer just fighting for himself, but for his daughter, for all the dreams he once had buried under the weight of routine. As they collided, Jake felt a jolt resonate through his body. Alex fought back hard, but Jake focused on the pulse of the crowd around him. Their excitement poured into him like fuel, and the adrenaline swelled. With a quick sidestep, he dodged Alex's next strike and launched into an uppercut that connected squarely with his opponent's chin. The impact echoed, and the crowd erupted in cheers. Jake could barely make out Lily's voice above the roar, shouting her encouragement. That single word "Dad" drummed in his ears, granting him strength. But as Alex stumbled back, Jake felt a crack of doubt. Was it really enough? He could almost feel the burden of his choices pressing down on him like a heavy cloak. This wasn't solely about the fight. It was about the lives they lived outside of this ring. Alex regained his footing, anger flashing in his eyes. "You're just lucky," he spat, coming at Jake with a fierce ferocity that betrayed his frustration. Jake braced himself, feeling the thrum of every heartbeat, the sting of every bruise, and the fire of every cheer. He was determined not to be swayed by Alex's words. It wasn't luck. It was every time he had chosen to keep going when life got hard. Every blow exchange became a testament to resilience. They pushed each other to the limits, yet something shifted in the air, a collective breath from the crowd, a realization that this fight transcended skill alone. Suddenly, Alex threw a wild punch, and Jake ducked, realizing it was a desperate move. In that moment, the younger fighter lost his footing, and Jake seized the opportunity. He leaped forward, delivering a solid kick that caught Alex off guard, sending him crashing to the mat. The moment hung in the air, time pausing as the arena held its breath. Jake stood over Alex, chest heaving, his own heart threatening to burst from the exhilaration of victory. The referee moved in to count. 1-2. The crowd was a whirlwind of emotion, their anticipation palpable. Jake's thoughts raced back to Lily. He could picture her wide-eyed, waiting for the outcome, her faith in him a lifeline he hadn't known he needed. 3. The whistle blew, and the crowd erupted into deafening cheers. Victory shot through Jake like a bolt of lightning, igniting every sense. But as the cheers washed over him, Alex slowly got back up, wiping sweat and dirt from his brow. The realization hit him. There was more to this than just taking the title. He had witnessed humility before him, a recognition of shared struggle. They had both fought not only for a win, but to break past their own limits. "Good fight," Alex said, breathless and surprisingly sincere, as the two fighters shared a brief nod of respect. Jake felt a sense of camaraderie before he turned his back to the crowd. It was over. He had more to confront. As the announcer's voice blended into the background, Jake focused on the figure moving toward him through the throng. Lily, wide-eyed and glowing with pride. He could barely contain a smile, the weight of his journey rushing into focus. But just then, everything shifted as Lily raised her phone, showing him a notification that sent a chill through him. "Dad, wait! We need to talk." "It's about Mom." Then everything faded, as the noise of the crowd became muffled, and Jake found himself caught in a storm of emotions. What news awaited him? Jake's heart raced as he stared at the screen of Lily's phone. Words blurred as worry tightened like a vice around his chest. For a brief moment, the loud cheers of victory felt like harsh static, drowning out everything else. "Lily, what do you mean?" he managed to say, his voice barely above a whisper. Her eyes were wide, a mix of excitement and fear. "I just got an alert. There is something happening with Mom." The urgency in her voice cut deeper than any punch he'd just taken. Jake instinctively crouched down to her level, trying to connect. "Is she okay? What is going on?" "I don't know yet. Just let us find out." She looked around, searching the crowd as if she'd find the answers hidden in the faces of strangers. With a firm grip on her small hand, Jake felt the reassuring warmth of her palm against his. Together they pushed through the throng of fans still buzzing from the fight. The excitement had quickly turned into a shadowy haze that clouded the air between them, dampening the victory that had felt so sweet just moments before. As they emerged from the arena, the cool night air brushed against his skin, awakening his senses. The heavy scent of sweat mingled with the faint smoke of food stalls outside. Yet the warmth transformed into a chill as thoughts of Lily's words replayed in his mind. What could possibly be happening with Sarah? They headed toward the parking lot, where Jake's car waited under the dim lights. But all he could think about was how to help Lily cope. "You know we'll figure this out, right?" he said, trying to inject certainty into his voice. She nodded, but her gaze was fixed ahead, the shadows of worry dancing in her eyes. Once they were inside the car, Jake fired up the engine, his hands trembling slightly around the steering wheel. Whereas before he had channeled that adrenaline into the fight, now it coursed through him as a different kind of energy, fear and concern, mixed with a love for his family. Determined to reach home quickly, he navigated the streets, and with each turn, his mind churned with possibilities about what awaited him. Thoughts of Sarah, tangled in complicated choices, and the battles that had led her here, loomed large. Jake fought back tears, willing himself to stay focused. He couldn't afford to fall apart now, not in front of Lily. "What do you think it could be?" he asked her, attempting to deflect his internal panic. "I saw something online about how she didn't show up to her appointment." "I think they're worried," Lily stammered, the worry in her voice squeezing at Jake's resolve. Silence filled the car for a moment, both of them gripped by uncertainty. Jake glanced over at Lily. Her expression, though young, was heavy with the weight of what they faced. Finally, he said, "We'll talk to her together. Whatever is going on, we'll handle it as a team." As they pulled up to their home, the light spilling out across the lawn offered a brief flicker of hope. But what if that hope went unfulfilled? What if they were too late? Jake stepped out of the car and hesitated before heading to the door, doubt creeping in. Thoughts of past regrets ran like a film reel in his head, each misshapen choice, an unresolved fight flashing back at him. "Let us do this," he said, steeling himself. Just as he reached for the door, it swung open, revealing a pale Sarah, her eyes red, filled with emotion. "Jake," she began, voice shaking. In that instant, everything shifted. The air felt charged, alive with unspoken words. Jake could sense that nothing would be the same after this. "Mom, what is wrong?" Lily's voice broke the tension, pulling Jake back from the cliff of his spiraling thoughts. He held his breath, ready for whatever truth would unveil itself. And just like that, everything he believed teetered on the brink of discovery. What would they learn today that would change everything forever? Sarah's voice echoed in the stillness, each syllable heavy with emotion. "I think I might need to go to the hospital." Those words hung between them like a storm cloud. Jake felt the weight of fear settle in his gut. The moments blurred together, as a swell of adrenaline and dread washed over him. He stepped closer, searching her eyes for some hint of reassurance, but found only fear and uncertainty reflected back. What happened? He barely managed to choke out the question, his heart racing with each tick of the clock inside their home. "I've been feeling really weak," Sarah's voice quivered as she spoke. "I didn't want to worry you or Lily until I knew for sure, but when I tried to stand, everything just went black for a second." Lily squeezed Jake's hand tighter, her small body tense against the uncertainty that enveloped him. "Mom, you have to let us help you," she implored, her voice rising in urgency. "We can't just sit here." Jake turned to Lily, his heart breaking. He wanted to shield her from this, but reality had its own ugly plan. "You're right. We need to get you checked out, Sarah." "No more waiting," he said, forcing calm into his voice. The world outside their home faded away, leaving only the three of them in a bubble of fear and determination. Sarah nodded slowly, her shoulders sagging under the weight of her admission. Jake steadied his breath, tapping into his instinct. "Let us go. Grab your things." He moved toward the hallway, the ticking clock amplifying the urgency swirling within him. Lily darted after Sarah, worry knitting her brow. Jake lingered just a moment, absorbing their home, this sanctuary filled with laughter and love, wondering if it would still feel the same after tonight. Once in the car, Jake drove quickly but carefully, the streetlights blurring into streaks of orange and yellow outside the window. Silence stretched between them, heavy and thick. It was a silence filled with thoughts left unsaid, questions about what tomorrow might bring, what they might lose. He glanced at Sarah in the rearview mirror, and for the first time, he saw her fragility, a vulnerability that shook him to his core. "What is going through your mind?" he finally asked, his voice softer now, seeking connection. "I just keep thinking," she began, hesitating. "What if I can't be the mom you both need? The mom I wanted to be?" Her words struck a nerve, and he felt the breath catch in his throat. "You are already that mom. You've given us everything, Sarah. Don't forget that," he assured her, hoping his confidence could start to ease her fears. Lily piped up from the back seat. "Yeah, you're the best mom. Remember when you helped me win that science fair? You made the volcano explode perfectly." A soft smile crept across Sarah's face, but it faded as quickly as it appeared. Jake's heart sank. He could see the struggle behind her smile, the fear that this moment could shatter the bond they built together. When they arrived at the hospital, Jake jumped out and rushed to open the door for Sarah. "We're here. We'll figure this out." They entered the emergency room, the stark lights harsh against the soft glow of moonlight outside. A nurse approached with practiced ease, but Jake could sense the apprehension lurking behind the calm facade. As they moved through the winding halls, Jake felt the weight of uncertainty return, heavier than before. Each passing second held the potential for a life-changing truth, and he couldn't shake the thought of what they might learn about Sarah's condition. Just as he was about to voice his worries, a doctor appeared, clipboard in hand, the look on his face serious. "We need to talk to you about Sarah's symptoms." The words fell like icy stones into Jake's heart, an ominous warning that the truth was about to unfold. His fingers tightened around Lily's hand, bracing himself for whatever revelation lay ahead. What if the news was more than they could bear? What if everything changed right here, in this dark hospital room? The tension in the hospital room hung in the air, like the heavy silence before a storm. Jake's heart pounded in his chest, each beat echoing his dread. He looked down at Lily, who was clutching her stuffed bunny, her wide eyes darting between her mom and the doctor. "What is wrong with Mom?" she whispered, her small voice quavering. "Let us just hear what the doctor has to say," Jake replied, forcing a calmness he did not feel. Dr. Matthews adjusted his glasses as he sat down across from them. He took a deep breath and began. "Sarah, can you tell me more about the symptoms you've been experiencing?" Sarah nodded slowly, the fear still lurking behind her eyes. "I felt weak for days, like I could pass out at any moment. Sometimes I see spots before my eyes." The doctor scribbled notes, his expression serious. "And have you experienced any shortness of breath or chest pain?" Sarah hesitated, her gaze falling to the floor. "A little, but I thought it was just stress. Stress can take quite a toll on the body," he said softly, but his voice held an edge of concern. "We'll need to run some tests, but I want to prepare you for the possibility that these symptoms could indicate a more serious issue. It could be a range of things, from anemia to something more critical." Jake felt his throat tighten. He had always thought they were invincible, that they could face anything as long as they were together. Now, he felt cracks forming in that belief. "What kind of tests?" he managed to ask, trying to keep his voice steady for Sarah and Lily. Doctor Matthews met his gaze and continued, "Blood tests, maybe an ultrasound. We'll start with the basics and go from there. It's important to understand what we're dealing with." Jake glanced at Sarah, whose shoulders were hunched as if she was carrying a weight too heavy for her. He could see the worry etched on her face, the way her fingers clutched at the fabric of her shirt. "We'll face this together," he said firmly, hoping to steady her. "Whatever it is, we can handle it." "That is right, Mom," Lily chimed in, her voice little but fierce. "You're the bravest mom ever." "Right, Dad?" Jake nodded, unable to suppress a smile. "Absolutely. You remind us every day what it means to be brave." Just then, a nurse approached with a gentle smile, breaking the heaviness of the moment. "Sarah, if you can follow me, we'll get started with those tests." "I'll stay with you," Jake said, sliding his arm around Sarah's shoulders as they rose to follow the nurse. He inhaled deeply, trying to remain strong even as fear threatened to pull him under. At that moment, he felt something shift inside him, a determination to protect his family at all costs. They had weathered storms before, and this was just another challenge, another hurdle to jump over together. As they walked down the sterile hallway, he couldn't shake the sense that this path might lead them to unexpected revelations. Perhaps even to a truth that would change them all. The tests seemed to stretch on for hours, each minute a palpable reminder of the uncertainty clouding their lives. When Sarah finally returned from the testing room, her face was pale, her eyes still clouded with worry. Gathering in the small waiting area, Jake found himself struggling to mask his anxiety. The clock on the wall ticked loudly, and with each tick, his heart persisted in a frantic race. Do you think everything will be all right?" he asked, more for himself than for Sarah. "I want to believe it will be," she whispered, her voice shaking as she leaned into him for support. Jake's heart broke as he held her close, feeling the warmth of her against him. He feared for what could come next, held captive by the uncertainty of it all. As the door opened, revealing Dr. Matthews once more, Jake felt the air shift like a curtain drawing back, shedding light on their hidden fears. The moment of truth was upon them. What would it bring? Dr. Matthews stepped into the room, the grim look on his face cutting through the fragile hope that hung in the air. Jake's heartbeat quickened. He squeezed Sarah's hand tighter, sensing the electricity between fear and a life-changing reality. "Thank you for waiting," Dr. Matthews began, each word measured as though each syllable bore the weight of the world. "We've run a series of tests, and I have the results." Lily shifted restlessly, knuckles white around her stuffed bunny. Jake forced himself to look at his daughter, to offer her a reassuring nod that he wasn't sure he believed himself. She returned a small, hopeful smile, which fell away when she looked back at her mother. "Sarah, the tests indicate that you're suffering from something more significant than stress." The doctor paused, glancing at the medical chart in his hands, as if checking it for courage. "You have a condition called myelodysplastic syndrome. It's a disorder caused by poorly formed or dysfunctional blood cells, often leading to anemia, among other complications." Jake's breath whooshed out of his lungs, the reality sinking like a stone in his stomach. He exchanged a glance with Sarah, whose eyes had grown wide, barriers of denial slowly crumbling around her. "What does that mean? Is it serious?" Dr. Matthews nodded slowly. "It is serious. It means your body is not producing enough healthy blood cells. We need to discuss treatment options that entail frequent blood transfusions and possibly more aggressive therapies." "Treatment? Will it work?" Jake's voice trembled. He couldn't help it. It felt as if the ground had been pulled from beneath him, and he struggled to regain his footing while the world spun out of control. Many patients can manage the condition effectively with treatment, but it will take time, and the road may be tough, Dr. Matthews replied, his tone soothing yet firm. "We need to act quickly so we can give Sarah the best opportunity for recovery." Sarah's breath hitched beside him, her fingers trembling as they slipped from his grasp. She pulled away and looked up at the doctor. Is there a risk of it being something worse? Like cancer?" Her voice cracked, and Jake could hear the fear beneath the words. "Doctor." Matthews sighed gently, understanding the weight of her question. "The possibility exists, but we don't have conclusive evidence for that yet. We will do further testing to ensure we are making the right decisions. The critical step is to monitor your situation closely." Jake ran a hand through his hair, frustration boiling within him. "So we wait. More tests, more uncertainty. What are we supposed to do in the meantime?" The doctor met Jake's gaze with a calm intensity. "You focus on each other. You lean on family and friends. That support will be invaluable through this journey." Lily, still clinging to her bunny, darted towards her mother, wrapping her small arms around Sarah's waist. "Mom, we'll get through this, right? You have me and Dad, and we're all together." Her innocent belief lit a spark that clashed with the darkness surrounding them. Jake's heart surged at his daughter's resilience. He knelt down to Lily's height and spoke softly, "That's right, kiddo. No matter what, we're a team." "Always," Sarah added, her voice steady just enough. They were all fighting, holding on to the shimmering thread of hope through the maelstrom of fear. As they left the office, Jake felt the weight of the world resting heavily on his shoulders. Yet, under the pressure, there was also a flicker of determination. They would take this one day at a time, together. The hallway outside seemed endless as they walked, the stark white walls feeling claustrophobic. The enormity of the future loomed large. Jake wanted to believe they would find their way through this. Yet, deep down, shadows of doubt still lingered. As they turned the corner, Lily's excited chatter broke through, her voice a small bubble of sunshine in the murkiness. Can we get ice cream, Mom? We need to celebrate being brave. Jake stole a glance at Sarah, her eyes sparkling for just a heartbeat. Before the wait returned, he hesitated, glancing back at the doctor's office. Would ice cream be enough? Did they even know what brave truly meant now? With a deep breath, he nodded, anchoring himself to the sound of his daughter's laughter. Absolutely. Let us go celebrate. We deserve it. But behind that willingness to celebrate, beneath the smiles they put on for Lily, uncertainty hummed like a storm cloud on the horizon. What storms awaited them on this path? And would they find light when darkness threatened to close in? The ice cream shop was a lively swirl of color and sound. Brightly painted walls adorned with whimsical murals followed the laughter of children racing past, their sugar-filled excitement momentarily alleviating the tension that clung to Jake. Each scoop of brightly colored ice cream in the glass counter looked like a promise, radiant and inviting, yet his own heart felt heavy and clouded. Look at that one, Dad. Lily squealed, pointing at a technicolor swirl that seemed to capture the essence of childhood itself. Sarah crouched down beside her, searching in that moment for a distraction, for a way to immortalize this small, innocent pleasure before the storm moved in again. Jake watched them, the scene both heartwarming and heart-wrenching. He fought to etch this moment in his mind, a snapshot of joy that sparkled amid the gray. All right, let us get 2 scoops each, he decided, voice brightening. The abruptness of his enthusiasm surprised even him. But if they could grab onto happiness, perhaps they could lose hold of fear. Even just for a moment. As they stood in line, he felt conflict tug at him. A flood of what-ifs rushed through his mind. What if those happy smiles were fleeting? What if this day, filled with laughter, was a deception against an impending change? He struggled to push those thoughts away, holding on to the laughter of his daughter as a lifeline. After securing their order, they found an outdoor table. The sun painted everything golden, and he settled onto the plastic chair, taking in the beauty of the moment. Lily busily sang an off-key tune, her fingers dancing on the table like they were made of sugar. Sarah caught Jake's eye, raising an eyebrow, half annoyed but mostly amused. Guess we'll need earplugs for her performance, she joked. Jake chuckled, grateful for these small pockets of light. What flavor do you have, Mom? Lily asked, ice cream smudged on her cheek like a badge of honor. Mint chocolate chip. Just like you, Sarah replied, stealing a playful lick of Lily's cone. Jake savored the moment, the simple, fleeting kind that reminded him, even if just for an instant, of a time before the weight of life felt so heavy. They were a family, and for today, they could pretend that everything was fine. Yet, as the chatter around him faded into background noise, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking on a tightrope. Forcing a smile, he asked Sarah, "What are we really going to do when we get home?" She paused, the brightness in her expression dimming just a fraction. "What do you mean?" "I mean, this isn't just going to go away. We can't ignore the tests. We need a plan." His words hung between them, a delicate tension coiling in the air. Sarah looked visibly torn. "I know, but let us at least enjoy today. We can talk about it later." Lily perked up. "Yeah, Mom. What about a movie night? We could all watch together. It'll be fun." Jake clenched his jaw. Another what-if tumbled through his mind. What if they ended the day, but things in life had changed too drastically to enjoy something so simple? Yet, he could see hope mirrored in Lily's excited expression. She still believed in the ordinary magic of a family movie night. "Okay, movie night sounds great," Jake conceded. "But we should probably make a list of questions for the doctor. What we want to know moving forward." Sarah nodded slowly, keeping her eyes on Lily, who was now completely absorbed in her ice cream, fingers getting sticky yet again. "Yes, let us do that. We'll be ready." As their ice cream slowly melted under the sun, Jake tried to absorb the sweetness of this moment. wishing he could bottle it up and keep it safe. They needed to stay anchored together. A cloud passed overhead, dimming the sunlight. Jake glanced toward it, shadow and light fighting for dominance. Inside, anxiety gnawed him, reminding him that this bliss was fleeting. "Jake?" Sarah's voice broke him from his thoughts, her tone steady yet somber. "Yeah," he replied, wishing he could hold on to these minutes forever. "The doctor's going to call tomorrow with more results." Jake sighed, the weight of fear creeping back in as reality loomed. "I know." They both looked at Lily, who was blissfully unaware. They had to protect her innocence as long as they could. But what awaited them in that call? And how were they to face whatever came next? Would they find the strength to navigate this unknown territory, or would the weight of worry crush them under its relentless grip? As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows ahead, Jake couldn't help but wonder how much brighter tomorrow might or might not be. The next morning felt heavy with uncertainty, as Jake stared at his phone, each ring of the alarm echoing his anxious heartbeat. He knew the doctor's call could change everything. The sunlight streamed into the kitchen, but felt cold against the tightness in his chest. Lily sat at the table, her breakfast untouched, blissfully humming a tune, while Sarah paced slowly, a storm of thoughts behind her weary smile. "Should we go for a walk before the call?" Jake suggested, trying to inject a sense of normalcy into the air. Lily perked up instantly, her eyes gleaming. "Can we? I want to show Mom the park." "Sure, a walk sounds nice," Sarah replied, her voice faint. Jake took a deep breath, pulling on his jacket as he looked at his wife. Though her smile was gentle, there were shadows beneath her eyes that betrayed worry. They walked to the nearby park, the cold air a refreshing contrast to the heat of anxiety. Bright leaves fluttered like little flags in the playful breeze, and Lily's laughter rang out as she raced ahead, the sound filling Jake with fleeting joy. As they reached the swings, Jake settled onto one and pushed off the ground gently. The thrill of movement reminded him of simpler times, when life was full of possibilities. What if they could hold on to this moment forever? But reality knocked sharply when his phone buzzed in his pocket. It was the doctor. He felt his heart drop into his stomach as he glanced at Sarah, her gaze dancing between hope and dread. "Do you want to take it here?" he whispered, his voice barely more than a breath. Sarah nodded, her eyes wide and brimming with emotions. "Yeah, I'll be right here," she said, holding onto the swing's chains tightly. Jake's heart raced as he answered the call. "Dr. Matthews?" he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "What did you find?" "Jake, I think it's important we talk in person about Sarah's results," the doctor said, his voice low. Every word sent a chill down Jake's spine, casting shadows over the park. "What does that mean?" Jake asked, panic beginning to creep in. "Is it serious? Please come to the office as soon as you can." With each second that passed, Jake felt a veil of darkness beginning to settle over the world. He looked up to see Sarah watching him anxiously, her expression pleading for answers. "Not good news," he said, the words tumbling out like stones dropped into silent water. At that moment, everything shifted. The vibrant colors of the park felt muted, while shadows stretched longer. Jake took Sarah's hand, intertwining their fingers, grounding himself in her warmth and steady resolve. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together," he assured her, squeezing her hand tight enough that she knew he was serious. Determination welled within him. He wouldn't let fear claim them. The drive to the doctor's office was silent, each passing block amplifying the tension between them. Jake focused on the rhythmic hum of the engine, channeling his anxiety into the mechanical purr. He parked, and they stepped into the building, where the sterile sheen of walls and floors greeted them like a foreboding judgment. As they sat in the waiting area, Jake felt his heart thump harder than ever, echoing in the quiet space. He held Sarah's shaking hand, And after what felt like an eternity, Dr. Matthews emerged, ushering them into a consultation room. "Thank you for coming in so quickly," he began, a furrow in his brow. When he sat down, Jake's breath hitched, dread swirling in his chest. "Your tests indicate that Sarah has a rare form of myelodysplastic syndrome." The doctor's voice faded into the background as his words sank in. Bitter snow fell upon their hopeful landscape, and everything felt shifted, tilted off kilter. "We can begin treatment right away. Blood transfusions are the first step, followed by options we can discuss. The good news is this condition can often be managed effectively," he continued, holding their gazes. Jake nodded, trying to lock onto that sliver of hope. Fighting against his rising panic, he asked, "Will she be okay? Can we manage this as a family?" "Absolutely, Dr." Matthews assured, his voice steady. "It won't be easy, and there will be days of both struggles and victories. But we'll face it step by step." The words ignited a new determination inside Jake, a fierce and unyielding force. He glanced at Sarah, whose eyes sparkled with relief despite her fear. There was still a road ahead, but together, they could navigate it. "Lily needs us, and we're a team," he began, his voice stronger now, filled with a newfound purpose. "We face whatever comes together, and take it one day at a time." As they left the office, Jake felt the warm weight of Sarah's hand as an anchor against the storm that had once threatened to sweep them away. When they stepped back outside, the sun shone brighter, illuminating their path ahead. In that instant, reality settled like a soothing balm. Though uncertainties loomed like shadows, they were not alone, and together they would carve out their own light against the darkness. "Can we get ice cream today?" Lily asked, breaking into a radiant smile, her voice pure and innocent. "Of course, kiddo," Jake replied, grinning back as warmth flooded his heart. A solid reminder that life would go on, one scoop at a time. As they walked toward the ice cream shop, an ordinary task felt remarkably extraordinary. The vibrant colors of the surroundings blossomed anew, each crack and crevice of life pulsating with resilience, family, and hope. Behind the facade of uncertainty, Jake felt something transformative rise within him. They were bound by love, stronger than any obstacle. Together, they would embrace the struggle, the unknowns, and the journey ahead. In their hearts, they held the promise of better days, finding light even amidst stormy skies. Now, it's time for you to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire and uplift you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, so we can keep sharing these powerful stories. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about how Jake and his family faced their challenges. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share this life-changing tale. Remember, true fans thrive in the strength of community.